we have doubled our population, our housing, to almost more than 7,500. We are also giving them all types of food with this completely new food processing plant and a lot of farms over here. And we even upgraded our nuclear facility to nuclear reactor level 2, which is producing or using both the uranium rod but also the MOX rod. It's sort of the recycling of the spent fuel right into a nuclear reprocessing plant. Unfortunately, that's definitely not enough. In particular, this is not enough electricity. We are using a lot of electricity for water production over here for the farm, for the water production, for the food processing, the water production for my people. But most importantly, like I said in the last few episodes, our initial bus over here is getting to the end of its life. It's getting too small, it's not producing enough, and at the same time, if I want to make it bigger, I'm definitely gonna need more electricity. So today, let's unlock the fast breeder reactor and let me show you this amazing new way to make free energy. Energy for life. The amazing thing is that one fast breeder reactor is basically going to give me 240 megawatts, which is what I'm getting right now. So I can double with just one of those reactors, and we're not just gonna do one. The last important thing before we dive in is this is the research that has also requirements over here. This is similar, for example, to the data center where you need to have produced 20 of the electronics level 3 before you can research it. In this case over here is you need to have made 60 of MOX spent fuel. So that is why we also build the nuclear reactor level 2. You actually have sort of need to. Welcome back to Captain of Industry Update 2. We're playing on a custom map of Paris that I created myself. You can download it if you want in the video description below. You can also find in the video description below the full playlist to this series and the link to join my Discord community where you can download all of the blueprints that I've created for this series. So let me first explain everything there is to know about this fast breeder reactor before I showed you what I've built and how great that is. So first of all, the fast breeder reactor, as I said, this is almost like infinite energy because it is basically going to produce more of the reactive material than what you put into it. And the reality is it actually does exist, it's not a fantasy thing. Now, despite my master in engineering, I'm not going to pretend I can explain it all, but just know that it is actually a cool thing that exists. So anyway, a fast breeder reactor, this is this building over here. It's way bigger than the reactor level 2, as you can see. So I like that a lot. It is also not the upgrade of this one. You can't just click on this one and upgrade it. You have to build it from scratch. So it will probably be in a new place. You can't put it in the same place as you have your old one like I had over here. It is also costing a lot. We're talking 1,500 of those purple construction parts and 200 of electronics level 3. It is also costing maintenance level 3, the red maintenance. So we're gonna have to start that. And then lastly, we're talking about 200 people. So that is why I want to make sure we have a lot of workers. So here it is. Then, as you can see, there is also more input and outputs than the other. We do have, as always, the water, the steam, but it is quite a different one. As you can see, we have over here some red steam. This is super high steam, or what is it called already? Super steam, sorry. So it is a different one. It is not the only place you can do it. There is actually another place you can make this steam, which is in the boiler electric. But as you can see, these are the only two places where you can make this steam super. But the cool thing is that with this steam super, we get one new turbine, right? Before we used to have the high pressure turbine and then the low pressure turbine. Whenever we were making electricity, taking steam high into steam low and mechanical power, and then the steam low into mechanical power and then steam depleted. Now we're gonna be able to add one more to that line, right, which is the super high or the super pressure turbine, which is going to take this super steam, a lot of mechanical power. We're talking about 18. This is basically the sum of these two, right? This is 12 plus 6. This is 18. So basically with this, we're doubling our power. And that is why I said one of these reactors like this is basically the equivalent of two of these in terms of energy. So this is really powerful. And of course, we're going to create the steam depleted that we can retransform into water, right? But we also have, as you can see, a couple of different things happening over here. There is 4. And another interesting element is that all of these are liquids. These ones were solids, these ones are liquids, which does help for the logistics in terms of pipes are easier to manage, but it makes it slightly harder in the sense that you cannot actually have a lot of reserves of these because you cannot put them into a storage. If you look over here at any of these storages for fluid, they don't have those icons over here. And it makes sense, you know, these are radioactive stuff. Now looking inside into the fast breeder management tab, you can see you can do 0 to 4, similar to the other one, and you can do enable automatic regulation, again using some teraflops 18 into this case. There is a reserve inside, similar to the other one, for this core fuel. This is what's going to be used with the water to make the steam. This is one core fuel. And we're going to create one core fuel spent when the reaction is done. But that's not all. There is also over here this new thing called enrichment. This is basically what makes this a fast breeder reactor, meaning it's going to create more than what it's using, because while the reaction is going, it's also going to enrich those blanket fuel. So you give it some blanket fuel and it's going to transform into blanket fuel enrich. Now, what is important is that this is optional in a sense. If this is full, let's say this blanket fuel enrich is full, this is fine. It's still going to continue. But again, this is what's going to make it really powerful. I'm going to explain some of the numbers. The key thing you need to understand is you need to feed it core fuel and you need to feed it blanket fuel, and you're going to get core fuel spent and blanket enrich. And we're going to want to transform that, obviously, and then feed it back into it. And this way also the advantage is that there's no spent marks of fuel that is radioactive that we have to take care of. So how are we going to make core fuel? There's actually 3 recipes, but 2 of them are sort of reprocessing. Because look at this. This one, nuclear reprocessing plant, as its name suggests, it's reprocessing the core fuel spent that's coming out to remake some new ones. Yes, you have a bit of loss, but not that much, right? You go from 10 to 8. So basically what that means is that when you're using 1, right, you're actually not really using 1 because you're going to remake 80% of it right away. And then at the same time, remember we said we're going to make some blanket fuel enrich, right? By just feeding it some blanket fuel. And with this, we're also going to make some core fuel. So with this one, with 15, we're going to make 3 core fuel. That's already a lot. And again, all of this is just reprocessing. The only one that is not reprocessing is this one at the top. With a chemical plant level 2, you're going to take some enriched uranium at 20% and a bit of salt to make some core fuel. If you do things right, you should only have to use this recipe to kickstart your fast breeder, and then you'll never have to use it. Let me show you why with some quick math. Okay, so here it is. These are the numbers that you just saw, right? 1 cycle is using 1 core fuel and is going to create 1 core spent. We can make 4 cycles into 1 reactor, right? So just multiply all of this by 4 to make 1 reactor. So 1 reactor is consuming 4 core fuel to make a lot of electricity, and it's going to create 4 core spent. Similarly, with 4 cycles, we're going to use 4.8 blanket fuel to make 4.8 blanket enrich. It's important thing over here is it's more than 4. It's 4.8. Then in the enrichment plant, we're going to take 15 of those blanket fuel enrich to make 3 core spent. So let's prorata this to what we are actually producing in 1 reactor, which is 4.8. Which means when you're doing 4.8, you're actually creating 0.96. You know, you're not creating 3, obviously you're creating only 0.96 every minute if you wish, right? So what does that actually mean for a cycle in a reactor? Well, that means we're not making any blanket fuel enrich, right? Because we're producing 4.8 and using 4.8. We are using a bit of blanket fuel because we're using 4.8 and only making 3.84. So we're going to have to feed it back some more blanket fuel, but that's fine. I'll show you how. And more importantly, instead of basically using 4 core fuel, we're only using 3.04. But that's not all. Then it goes into the nuclear reprocessing plant, right? Well, the basic recipe of every minute is to use 10 core spent to make at the end basically 8 core fuel, right? So again, we prorata it to 4 cycle, which means we're going to use 4 core spent. That's what we're making. And that's going to create 3.2 core fuel. So you add those 3.2 to the minus 3.0, that means we're in positive now. basically in every cycle, we're making more core fuel than what you're consuming by a very small margin, 0.16, but that's a lot actually, right? It's enough to obviously never need new core fuel, which is why, again, as I said, you only need this one to kickstart everything and then you're done. And also, as I was saying before, it is going to produce more, so you need to make sure that it's not going to get full either. And the way to do this is basically this, at this some point, this blanket fuel enrich is going to get full, but this will continue. Versus for sure, you need to make sure that you continue taking care of the core fuel spent, otherwise this will stop. Then the next important element is over here. As we said, this is going to create a lot more mechanical power than before. It's doubling the mechanical power. If you want to do what I've been doing in the past, which is that each of this cycle, if each of this X over here, right, is one line of these, you're going to need 2 of each, right? Because we're talking about 96. So this is 48 times 2. So that's going to be a line like this. Now, a line like this is actually a lot of mechanical power. It is actually 72. 72 is the maximum you can put into one. So definitely don't think about putting even more than 2 of each, right? You cannot put 3 or 4. For example, if you want to only do 2x and you're thinking, okay, I'm just going to make one line. No, you cannot. You have to put a second line, a copy paste line, right? A second line like this for the second x, because otherwise this is going to make basically your mechanical shaft explode. And then 72, the key thing too is that it is obviously a lot of power, right? We're talking about 4 of these instead of 2. Now, what else do we need? Well, obviously in this recipe over here, that's fine. We need a bit of acid, molten glass, and steel. We can deal with this. This is the basic resource and it's going to make the fission product, which is, remember, what we have started to create last time in this recipe, right? And you can put it into a radioactive waste storage, and after 100 years, it will be retired and destroyed. So that is great, no problem. On the other hand, over here, we will need for sure to create some blanket fuel, right? Because every time we do this recipe, we lose a bit, and we do need to create some just to kickstart the whole thing. So those blanket fuel, there is many recipes. First of all, if we had some spent fuel, some yellow one, we could use this one recipe. We do have now a lot of spent smokes, right? That's what we've been using with the reactor level 2. So we can also use that to make quite a few with just a bit of acid, molten glass, and salt. So that's easy. We do also have another great recipe over here, which is to use our depleted uranium with just a bit of salt. And then last but not least, basically when you have exhausted all of those things, because you definitely want to do first those radioactive stuff, then probably the depleted uranium, and then lastly the yellow cake. So you have this lastly this recipe over here, which is sort of the forever recipe, because you can always make new yellow cake. The yellow cake, you make it out of uranium ore crushed, the uranium ore crushed out of uranium ore, and you can get that either from the map or even from contracts, right? There is actually 3 contracts, if I'm not mistaken. One over here with gold, one with food packs, and one with lab equipment level 4 to get a lot of uranium ore, right? So you can make that forever. But frankly, I don't think we're gonna need it before probably thousands of years, because look at the amount of uranium, depleted uranium we have, plus we also have over here quite a few of spent MOX, right? So we have a lot of years before we need to use new yellow cake for this. But still, again, this is how you make it a forever thing. And then last but not least, we need to make a bit of uranium enriched at 20% to get this whole thing started. Right, to do this, again, we have 2 recipes. The first one will be to use plutonium with our normal enriched uranium. I have used basically all of my plutonium, right? And this was over here. We've been using it to make MOX rod. But if you still have, for example, a basic nuclear reactor that is making new ones, then you can start using it. The other recipe is more kind of the forever recipe, but again, we don't even need it forever, so that's fine. It is, to take your normal uranium that we're making for the reactor level 1 or 2, add a bit more hydrogen fluoride that we're already using to make some, and then you're getting this 20% and a bit more depleted uranium. So that's what I've done over here, is I added one of these enrichment plants next to our old facility. I brought some of these over here, right, enriched uranium, and then we put them into the plant to make some of this enriched uranium on 20%, and then we can send that to the new plant that I'm creating, because again, we cannot upgrade this one into the fast breeder. It was also on purpose. I knew that I didn't really want to put my final one over here because I want to put more farms there. So that is fine, but we will do it a bit more over there. So let's go, let me show you. And actually, if you've been paying attention during the explanation, you can see that we have already moved to quite higher production of energy over here. So it is already working. It is over here. It is pretty big. I'm going to explain it all. But as you can see, I also went crazy. We made everything you need for 4 of them, not just 1, 4. Now, okay, to be very precise, this is a small lie, because this and that one won't be enough for 4. They will only be enough for 3. But when we really need to get to 4, we have a lot of space over here to just add 1 more of these and 1 more of this, and we won't have a problem. But otherwise, again, this is basically ready. We have everything like for the water, everything over here for the electricity, etc. to make 4 of these work at 100%. Right now, I'm only having 1 at 50%, but we can go a lot higher. So let me show you a bit what's happening. Well, first of all, over here, if we look at the reactors, right, we have all 4 reactors. You can see the inputs, outputs are over here. We have the core fuel at level 0. We have the blanket fuel at level 1. Then we have over here at level 2, the enriched blanket fuel. And at level 3, we have over here, the core fuel spent. So when this is in, out, out. So that's the same on this side and that side. So super compact. Looks clean. I love that now we have the colors, so it's really easy to see it. And then over here we have the most important thing for this whole thing, to prioritize the right core fuel spent to make sure that this doesn't get full. So how is this working? Well, basically we have over here the nuclear reprocessing plant. This has to be the priority. Right? If this gets full, then we have a big problem. So this is the priority on this pipe balancer there. You can see priority in, right? And it goes straight. And then if this is not full, we can take some of this from this pipe balancer. But again, this pipe balancer also has a priority, which is to use first this core fuel that comes from here. And interestingly, as you can see, it is actually already full, right? We are already making enough. And that is why soon this will probably get full, but this will not stop. This is actually almost there, so it's a good time to check it, but that is fine. So, right, we're gonna start seeing all of this blanket enrich, just stay there and it will be okay, because this is full, because this is already full. Because this is already full, it can stay full. And then just this one was only to kickstart, right? We used it to kickstart, but it should never be used otherwise. It may be, it's good to keep it, because maybe when we start a new fast breeder reactor, or maybe if we have somehow an explosion or something, right, we may get into a problem, but it should definitely be deprioritized. Yeah, we're almost there, so I'll show you in a second when we get there. Now we also have another pipe balancer over here. This one is slightly less important, but still definitely a good thing to do, which is we're gonna use the blanket fuel that comes from this enrichment plant before we make new ones. And even when we make new ones, first we want to use the depleted uranium before we use the yellow cake. And actually, if you remember the explanation, you may also even want to prioritize first the spent MOX. The reason I didn't do it at this point is because actually spent MOX is very hard to transport from all the way to there to here. If I put it on the belt and transport it on the belt all the way over here, it's going to create so much radiation that all of my people will die. I guarantee you that will happen. That happened to me in my last playthrough, so I'm not doing it this time. We'll do it another way. But yeah, this is the prioritization for blanket fuel. And again, I have so much depleted uraniums that I have a lot of time before I need to create this new thing over here of making yellow cake, taking care of the toxic slurry, of course, and having a bit of uranium. And then last but not least, we do need, over here to have a blast furnace to make a bit of molten glass. We need a bit of acid and steel. When I say a bit, it's really a bit, right? We're talking about one every time it runs, and it doesn't even run every minute. And then over here we have a fission product. We may also need, you know, a couple of these when I have 4, because it takes 100 years for them to be transformed, you know, into recyclables. But it's gonna be some time before I need all 4, and I definitely have the space. I made sure to have the space over here. We do need, you know, a big other thing, which is water. And in this case, I was also smarter than before. Instead of using over here electric boiler and this recipe, which is basically creating a lot of water, but is a bit of a water loss, I am going to use a new recipe, which is water positive. It is this recipe over here, which is using a lot less seawater, only 15 instead of 108. So actually for all 4 of these reactors, at full capacity, I would only need those 9, if I'm not mistaken, that's 9, right? Those 9, no, that's not even 9, sorry. What am I saying? 3, 6, yeah, 10, sorry. Those 10 seawater pumps. This is enough for all 4 reactors at full speed. Right, so that's really great, and it's gonna then transform the steam depleted into water and brine. But look at this, it's 24 steam depleted into 33 water. And basically, if you remember, to make 24 steam depleted, we're basically using 24 water. So we have a positive water production by 9. Right? Every time we do this recipe, we create 9 water out of thin air, basically, which is great, right? Like, I love creating things out of thin air. Like in our past episode where we created gold and diesel out of thin air, now we're creating water out of thin air, which is why we're gonna send this water. Right now, it's a bit of a dirty pipe, right? But it's a dirty pipe that can feed our people, right? Our people drink a lot of water. Right now, they almost drink 400 of water. So, you know, this is going to be great. Of course, we need to prioritize it, you know, to go back there, but yeah, we can send it here. So that's the water production. We're also making a bit of brine, so we can transform this brine into things if we want, or we can just dump into the ocean. It doesn't actually create any pollution, right? So that's not the problem. And then of course, we also want to create electricity. So that's what's happening over here, right? We have our electricity. As I said before, it's a throughput of 100%, right? We have 72 of mechanical power in total onto this branch. So we're creating 60 of electricity for each. So that's really great. Of course, I've put all of this in priority number 1 now. This is my priority number 1. So over here, as I said, this is my seawater. The seawater comes over here, and then the brine can be sent over there, or can be prioritized to be sent somewhere else if needed. Now, let me explain a bit how this is working. I mean, basically, you have 4 lines that are identical. Right? Or if you want, also 8 lines that are identical. And this is one of these times 8. So we're talking about a lot of resource, of course. I mean, let's look at the total thing. 7,000 of those purple parts, right? Almost 3,000 of the red one. So almost 2,000 of steel and 11,000 electronics. This is mainly for these things over here, right? They cost 180 electronics each time. So this is costing a lot to build, right? That's why I didn't build the whole thing, obviously. I don't have all of the resources right now. But this is working pretty similar, as I said. Each of these blocks, like each of these 8 blocks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Each of these 8 blocks is working the same. So let me show you one, and then you'll know that all the others are basically the same. So we have seawater that come no, sorry, that's not the seawater. That is the exit water. The seawater is this one. So we have seawater over here, right? The way it works is you can see there is 4 of this pipe. I know it is slightly a mess, but this is pipe number 1, pipe number 2, pipe number 3, and pipe number 4. All right. So 4 of these And each of those pipes can serve two of these layers, right? Two, this one serves this one and that one. Then the next one we looked at serves this one and that one, etc. Now, to be precise, the way I've built it is that each of these pipes over here is going to transport 270 of seawater, because it's taking 2.5 of these. See, this one and that one are going directly there. This one is going on that side and that side. So it's sort of half and a half. So in total it's 270, and what I need for a block like this is 240. So there is a small surplus. Those things are not going to work at 100%, but you couldn't really do it any other way. Then the second thing we need is the steam depleted, right? This is what's coming over here at level 1. It comes obviously from this side. Right, so we have one of pipe there, right, goes here. Similarly for the second, we have the pipe here, it goes there, and we have the same for the two next ones. They will go then in the middle, right, and then split on each side. So there with this, we're making water and brine. The brine is at level 0, the water is at level 1. The brine goes towards this side, the water goes towards that side. For the brine, for the whole thing, we're actually making only 384. I say only, I mean, it's still a very good amount. You know, if you look at the recipes for brine, it's not like you need a lot. But the key thing when I say it's only is that it is only one level 3 pipe the whole way. There's no need for two pipes. One pipe can go the whole way into this over here. And then, you know, it just needs a couple of these liquid dump to be able to put into the sea. On the other hand, the water, we're going to create a lot. Actually, one block like this, one of the 4 blocks, is too much for one pipe level 4, which is why I said we have more kind of 8 blocks rather than 4, because each of those 8 blocks needs a pipe level 4 for the water. It's not going to be full. Each of the pipe is actually only going to get 264 per minute of water. But if you double that, you're talking about 528. So that's too much for one pipe. So that is why you can see there is one pipe here. And then for that block there, it is that pipe here. For that block here, it's that pipe there. For this block here, it's that one, etc. So we have 8 of those pipes. And that's also why you can see over here, there's a lot of pipes that are going back this side. This is the water pipe. On the other hand, what is coming from that side, you know, basically what's happening is at level 0, I have the pipes that are coming, and at level 1 and 2, I have the pipes that are going back into the reactors. The pipe that are going back to the reactors being the water, and the pipe that are coming being the steam super, sorry. So this is what's happening over here. As I said, at level 0, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 of this pipe, and they will go into each of the 4 blocks, right? So that's this pipe over here. It's going all the way here. And as you can see, this is the red one, right? That's going into the super. Then the super is creating steam high. The steam high goes into the next one. That's creating steam low. It goes into the next one. And then we have our steam depleted. So yeah, that's what's happening over here. Again, as I said, over here, we're bringing at level 0 all of the steam, and at level 1 and 2 we're gonna bring back the water. There is, of course, as always, also a kick start water, is this one over here. I just bring a bit of water to kickstart the whole thing. And then right now what I've done is I have actually paused that pipe. There is no need to use this water anymore. We have a buffer of water here because remember, this thing cannot really stop easily. To stop, you need some cooling water. So I'm making sure that we have a good storage of water. All right, so the pipe of water is going over here. This is the number 1 out of 8. Number 2 out of 8 will go into this one. All right, then it goes here and there. And there's also this third one, which is the cooling water. All right, this one over here. But this one doesn't really work unless you have a problem, and I don't have a problem. And then just if this is full, because remember, we're making more than what we actually need, we're going to send water on that belt here. This is not the paused one, and the paused one is this one. So this one is my sort of exit of water because we're making more than what we're using. It goes this side, then it is prioritized to go into my city first. And then just in case the city is also full, then we'll have to send it into the sea or use it somewhere else, of course. right? But you need to make sure that you use it, right? Otherwise, what will happen is that this will get full, so you will stop using your steam depleted. And if you stop using your steam depleted, you either need to send it into the atmosphere, or this whole thing is gonna stop, and then your reactor will explode. So not great, not great. And then all of the other pipes will basically be doing the same thing, but for the other 3 reactors. We have, the exit over here. These are the 3 pipes that will exit the steam high. Here are all of the pipes that are going to bring the water. As you can see, I haven't fully connected everything, right? We still need to connect the water to it, but we can do it, and it will be the exact same layout. Similarly over here, I haven't connected exactly everything. Like here, this is not connected. The steam depleted is not connected. I did do this one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think this one is completely finished, but I'm quite confident I didn't make a mistake. I think this will work really well. And this is so much energy, right? Again, we're talking about 240 for just one block like this. So if I build all 4, we're talking about 960, almost 1000 megawatts. So that will be enough for us to move into the next episode to make 2 things. One is I want to make medical equipment level 3. Medical equipment level 2, it was paused over here just because I didn't have enough energy before building this one. And also it wasn't producing enough. I need a lot more for my population. So we're going to need to rebuild this completely for medical supply level 3, not just 2, but 3. All right, in the past we were only making the supply level 2. Now I want to move to medical supply level 3. So that's going to be definitely a challenge. And then also I have started, as I said in the last episode, to blueprint a bit a new bus over here, a gigantic final bus. So we're going to want to start building this. This is also going to help us use new contract and recipes. For example, over here, I'm starting to bring a new contract, which is vehicle parts level 2 to iron ore. The problem is I'm not making enough vehicle parts right now. I mean, I think we are making only like 10 per minute or something like this in all the bus over here. What is it? We're making 12 per minute of these vehicle parts level 2. So that's just not enough, unfortunately, for this to run well. And then the other cool thing is, of course, once we start it, I'm going to want to use the advanced recipe of transforming this iron ore into iron ore crushed, so that then, if we look at these blast furnaces, or by the way, not just the blast furnaces, there is also, if we want, the arc furnaces. The problem with the arc furnaces is that they cost a lot of teraflop and a lot of energy. And they're not that much better. I mean, the only thing that's better about them is that they use graphite instead of coal, but they still use basically, the same amount. Talking about 36 to make 48. It's the same for all of them, right? 36 to make 48. I think what we're going to do is probably use some of those blast furnace level 2 and also some of those arc furnace level 2. We're going to use both of them. Don't hesitate to tell me in the comments below which one of those 2 you prefer for your factory and why. The one where we will definitely use an arc furnace level 2 is for the molten silicon, because anyway, to make molten silicon you have to use an arc furnace, and as you can see, the arc furnace level 2 is definitely better in this case, because you're gonna double the production of silicon, but you're not going to double at all the coal and graphite. It's using the exact same amount of coal and graphite, but it's making double. It just requires 6 of water. But with this 6 of water, you're also going to make steam low, so you could actually make electricity, or you could make more water out of this thing. So again, definitely for the molten silicon, we will use arc furnace level 2s. So here it is, ladies and gents. I hope you see that I didn't lie. We have now unlimited energy. We have free energy, also a bit of free water, and I'm really excited to move then next into medical and a huge new bus. It did take me a lot of time to get there, so please smash like button, and I hope to see you next time.